I'm a scat man. I'm a scat man.
So, here's the situation. For whatever reason, you have decided to abandon the throngs of reasonable people around the world and are going to create and then sort a virtual Hogwarts character. Who knows why exactly you're doing it? Maybe you got tired of all that sociability you had going on. Maybe having real-life friends was just too tiring. Or maybe you just categorically dislike the sun, the outside world, and anything to do with them. Now you are in one of two situations. Either you are a true first-time to VH, which I'm going to go ahead and say is extremely likely, since the first thing anyone does when they decide to do something new is surf YouTube to see if anyone has made a video in which they pretentiously give you rules to do what you are doing. If this is you, first I have a lovely bridge that I would like to sell you, and then I have to say, welcome to the land of the lovable losers. While it is true that VH is one of those obsessions that never looks good in the real world, seriously, Hufflepuff won the Quidditch Cup, and I had absolutely no one I could tell about it who didn't already know, I assure you that you have many good things to look forward to, like pale skin, sinking grades, another set of homework assignments on top of any you might have already had, and, of course, a growing lack of appeal to the opposite sex. The other group, of course, are the resorts, people who already have VH characters and have decided that they just haven't sabotaged their lives enough yet. Of course, it could be worse. They could have World of Warcraft accounts, if not for the fact that most of them already have one. Anyway, these poor souls have decided to return to the world of the sorting because, for whatever reason, their current characters just aren't getting it done anymore, or, if they are, they aren't getting it done enough, whatever that means. Regardless of which category you fall into, you are creating a new character, and so because no one can stop me, I've decided to put together a simple set of rules to guide your process of doing so. After all, if you have already decided to sabotage your own life, there's no reason I can't get a little bit of satisfaction out of knowing that I helped. Right? Right. Rule number 1. One of the most important parts of creating a character for play on Virtual Hogwarts is the actual creation of a character. This does not equal A, what house they will be in, 2, how good they will be at Quidditch, and Pi, whether or not they will duel, a concept that seems to escape quite a few of the people making characters. These are not character concepts. They are goals, desires, dreams which may or may not come true. I haven't ever been part of the actual sorting of new characters, partially because I'm so new, and partially because no one in their right mind would ever give me anything resembling authority, which in my mind is a blessing. I haven't really played with Unsort since I was one myself, but the raw number of, "Gar, I'm a child of Death Eaters and eat muggles for lunch," next to, "I flew out of my mother on a broomstick and already have been accepted to play for Puddlemere United," folks that I ran into was depressing as hell. People are not defined by their houses, quite the opposite. Look at JKR's books. Of the main characters, which would you, looking at their sheet with no idea of the plot, have instinctively made a Gryffindor? Hermione practically bleeds Ravenclaw. The only reason Harry isn't a Slytherin is because he begged, and Peter Pettigrew will confuse me for the rest of my days. While it is possible to write a character to match a certain archetype as closely as possible, I can only imagine that those get tiring to read. Slytherins who only have friends so they can betray them, Ravenclaws who are so into books that they deserve their own section on DeviantArt, Gryffindors who are so brave that they would jump off of a tower to save a kitten in a tree, and Hufflepuffs who are so undeniably awesome that they could only be badgers, must get tiring to read after a while. Instead, write about who your character is, what their family was like. It's okay to be normal, for crying out loud, an 11-year-old kid who happens to be magical. Because actually, when you get right down to it, that is what Harry was, which is why the books worked. Rule number 2. I have occasionally, without naming names, run into characters on VH who basically decided that they wanted to be like character X from the books and so made a cookie-cutter copy of them. This is not a good idea. We already know what Ron would do in a certain situation. JKR has already written him rather well and made more money than God doing so. While that does mean that she was successful, it also means that unless you are better at her characters than she is, yours are going to turn out pretty dry and boring. Not only to those who read it, but also to you as well. This is, of course, exactly why canon characters are so confusing to me. I know why we have them, I just can never figure out why anyone would ever want to play them. One of the things that always bugs me about sites like VH is the incredible dedication to canon that some people have. While it is true that we want to operate within the rules set by JKR for her world, there are some people who seem to search for rules, taking individual lines out of context to say, see, it's obvious, magic spells in that particular phase of the moon must be purple, but only if cast by a premenstrual half-Vila. VH is at its best in material like the lessons of Professor Giordano, who recognizes that the books don't give her nearly enough material to teach 7 years' worth of classes with, and so creates her own material carte blanche, never blatantly violating JKR's rules, but never being too worried about towing the line either. This is exactly what I would recommend for your character. Within the boundaries of Rule 1, look for an area that has not yet been explored, and go ahead and explore it. There's a lot of it, so look for it. Rule number 3. Considering that I have already done a rules on relationships piece, this may seem something like beating a dead horse, but as my particular beast is nowhere near as maimed as the beast of the 11-year-old relationship demon, I'm going to go ahead and repeat it. Yes, VH is a fantasy site, but if your fantasy is dependent on 11-year-olds getting it on, then I think that VH is precisely the sort of place where you should not be. I think if most of us are honest, we will accept that we were, and I use the past tense here in the best of hope, regardless of evidence arrayed against me, that we were afraid of the opposite sex at that age, and so should be going nowhere near them with kissing in mind for fear of getting cooties. To make a long story short, there are a great deal of other things that your character could be up to besides relationships, and it will be better for everyone's mental health if they get on with those things. Rule number 4. In the end, this is likely the only rule that matters. I suppose I could have saved us all a load of time by saying this first, but then I wouldn't have had nearly as much opportunity to say witty things accompanied by funny pictures. The most important thing is to create a character that genuinely interests you and so will be fun for you to play, even if that involves breaking any of the rules that came before. Because, in the end, your character does not just belong to you. Their interactions become part of the weave that is your class, a bunch of students literally defined not by the backgrounds they wrote beforehand, but rather by their interactions with each other. What sucks with this scenario is that eventually, if the characters are not fun, people stop playing, and so all these friends that your character loved so much in the beginning disappear. There is no in-character reason. There can't be. Otherwise, no one would send anyone to Hogwarts because of the 95% mortality rate they seem to be suffering. So find something fun, keeping in mind that no matter how much you want to be a Hufflepuff, the simple fact of being a Hufflepuff won't make VH fun on its own, and play. Hopefully your classmates will do the same, and then we can all have fun together, which is good, because at the rate we're going, soon VH friends might be the only friends that we have left.